and start. Yeah. Eric Lawson is a Pushcart Prize nominated author and filmmaker. He is the author of the poetry collections Backseat Emperor, Processing America and Orphan Poems, Time for Plan B, and Leaving Long Beach. He attended both Kent State University and the Second City in Cleveland. He wrote the Holy Hatchet segment of the Body Count horror anthology film. He hosts the Make Your Own Fun podcast on YouTube and currently resides in Aiken, South Carolina. Let's welcome Eric Lawson as he is our feature for PPW today. Welcome, Eric.
Hey, thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Don. Excited to be here. And I do feel like I owe you guys an apology. I'm so sorry that it didn't work out earlier this year, and thank you so much for being able to reschedule. I really appreciate it. One thing about performance poetry, I think, is I would just recommend anybody who has never been to go to an open mic, even if you're angst-ridden or anxious or just nervous, go and just sit in the audience, sit and watch. Because you know what? They were young and they were scared and they were nervous and they were afraid to be in front of a crowd before, when they were starting out. So that's what I just say. I just say go and just, take it in. Just really kind of okay. And that's one of the things I did when I first moved to California. I went to open mics a couple of times with friends, roommates, just kind of sat there because I didn't really consider myself a poet when I first moved to LA. And one of the things I started doing after about the third, maybe fourth, maybe fifth open mic that I went to, I started bringing a notebook. And it was kind of strange because I was trying to be like analytical about it, like, okay, I like what she did. Oh, I don't like what this guy did, or it was kind of like learning what not to do, kind of cherry picking, like, oh, I like when she did that, or she made that awesome pause, or this guy went on too long between, the poems, or oh, that's how you like bring an audience back if they start to fall asleep or they kind of turn on you, or because we've all and I know Don as well, and maybe Patrick, we've all been to those open mics where there's just nothing you can do and you cannot compete with the coffee grinder. There's just, you're at the coffee shop and you just go, all right, just give me, and you learn those things over time. You've probably been to you guys have probably been to open mics where you've been at a bar and there's just that one guy in the back that's just, you're in the middle of reading like the most heart-wrenching thing about a breakup or a car accident you recovered from, some illness or something with your family. And in the middle of it, some guy just slow claps, just woo! And then you go, all right, well, and you can think of, funny anecdotes like a stand-up comedian to throw back at him. Like Steve Martin's got a great one where some guy, I think it's on one of his actual comedy albums, where some guy would just not stop talking to him, not stop throwing stuff out. And he said something kind of like, oh yeah, I remember my first beer. And the guy was like, and it's just diffuses it just enough that the crowd kind of gets back into it and he could launch right back in. But um, I'd like to go ahead and start reading some stuff, and I'll kind of tell you like as I go along a little bit if this helps people watching, because I know people are going to be watching this. Kind of why I start with things a certain way, because we're going to do about 5 poems here. So I like to start with kind of a high energy comedy poem, or something where it's just maybe snarky or just hi Rose. Um,
Hi. Hi,
so
everyone.
the first poem I'm going to read, it is from Backseat Emperor, and this is based on a true story about when I was in California at a gas station, and this guy came in and just blabbering, just totally drunk about some crazy experience he had up in the mountains with a bunch of other like good old boys. Didn't even really know what he was talking about, and So this is called The Abdominal Snowman. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold your inebriated horses there, pal. Did you just say abdominal snowman? Let me get this straight, Captain Elastic. So you're saying a tiny bipedal primate of some kind currently resides somewhere in the general vicinity of your stomach? Boulder Dash, show me the X-rays. Regale me with actual science. Better yet, never mind. Here, hold my beer. Please allow me to wax poetic in kind. Your Sierra Nevada camping ingrates, the Sandpaper Reach Around Society, no doubt ate something in the woods that they weren't supposed to, that made all of you sick and puke up those psychedelics. But not to worry, oh witless wonder. No, no, no. Once you pass that hefty herbal brick out of your system, we'll have you cleaned up and back to obscurity in no time at all. No need for hoaxes. Sound about right there, champion? Yes? No? Maybe? That was rhetorical, Sasquatch breath. Now, hand me back my beer and step aside. The adults are using mapping methods to finally unearth everything that was lost, and Atlantis is waiting. So that's that one. Thank you. So, like I said, I really like to, especially if it's someplace I haven't been before, I like to just really just reach out with, some energy and just some silliness and kind of just, I feel like when you do that, you're kind of coming through the screen or you're on stage and it's like, oh yeah, they're just suddenly they feel your energy. They're looking up, they're like, okay, what's next? So, that was that one. And then the next thing I like to do is kind of just peaks and valleys with a performance, and then I kind of like to go a little bit like philosophical. So again, this is also from the same book. We find it here. So this poem is called "A Finger Painter Derailed by Circumstance." I used to smear on these same walls for hours, oblivious and perfectly content. Primary colors swirled together quaintly. Life, imitating art, replicated. But somewhere along the way, I started worrying about my posture and a 401k and utilities and sodium and calories and new school clothes for the munchkin and rent and car payments and exercise. Yet at night, I dream about feeling the wet, textured slime oozing between my fingers, creating a valley full of elk and squirrels, or lily pads with frogs and ducks in a pond. A hellish forest fire blaze belching smoke skyward along the pale coastal highway. Infinite fractals spring forth from ancient man-made mythological and dark desires. The quest for more light is endless. How many stars must I chase only to ignore the closest sunlight on my face? How many solid relationships must I flee from because the idea of commitment is too stifling, too vanilla, too final? How many screens must I view daily in order to quell my boredom and curiosity? I need to unleash something feral. I need a tangle tool, a tangible tool in my hands. I need to entwine and breed with chaos. Verily, I vow to continue to map the constellations by torchlight while smearing finger paint on my cave walls. Thanks. Um, And then usually in the kind of like the middle of the set, tonight I'm reading five. What I like to do is not always, it depends. You kind of have to read the room a little bit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term. Kind of like um what I also like to do is I kind of like to read something that might be political, but also a little vague. Because I know that you guys know about projecting things onto a poem. And as audience members, as a fan, as a reader, I do it too, where, I'll say, I like that poem that you read about this. And the poet after the show will go, What? 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 I didn't read anything about that. No, no, no. You said this, this, and this, and it meant that. And the poet goes, Okay. All right. You were at the show, right? And this is the book I was talking about earlier, Processing America. Nice little car on fire there from Los Angeles earlier this year. Um, so this poem, um, it's very vague, but it's about war in general. So you could project it, it's about Ukraine. You could project it, it's about Gaza. You could project it's about any number of things. Because I put myself in the shoes of somebody who is experiencing it. And what war is terrifying, I think, in the middle of it, before it, and after it. But I think while things are unraveling, while things are coming into play, and if you're that person and you're in the middle of it, we're in Ukraine and you didn't know why the Russian tanks were coming in, or if you were in Gaza and you didn't know why, things were going on. It's that kind of horror of like that realization of, oh my God, this is happening and there's nothing I can do about it. I read this poem. It's a little hard to talk about. About 5 or 6 months ago, and I won't mention the place in Augusta at an open mic. And the people I was with really enjoyed it, and it was a rough draft version. The host really liked it, but when I parted with my friends and they kind of went one way and I went to another way in a parking lot, a drunk guy that was at the show came up behind me and put me in a headlock because he was so offended by the poem, and his girlfriend was like, yelling to stop, and I didn't even know what was going on. And then finally I just kind of went limp and, whatever, let it happen. And then I kind of told him, like, that's not what it was about. I'm sorry you were offended, but you put your own baggage on it. And I just kind of walked away, swallowed my pride, on a rainy night, just like whatever. But that just goes to show you that, like, again, you write this thing and you have no idea what people are going to put onto it. So if I can, I'd like to read that for you guys right now. This poem is called The Uninvited. I didn't vote for this war, but it ascended, proclaiming victory. I didn't cold call this war, but it appeared online, seizing my phone and demanding my undivided attention. I didn't invoice this war, but it's funded with misappropriated taxes. I didn't fall in love with this war, but it plans on fucking me all the same. So much for treaties. Would you laugh if I entreated you? So much for understanding. Would you smile at my misinterpretation? So much for the human race. Would you race me to the fallout shelter? I can learn to love almost anything, but apathy wears down my resolve. I can clean almost any spilled stain, but ingrained narcissism is stubborn. I will try to help anyone that I am able to, but fascism and bulldozer rhetoric destroy. I yearn for a soothing sea breeze tonight, but this war is forcing me to write postcards to my distant and endangered loved ones as my shaking hands are set on fire for the amusement of the uninvited. Thanks. Whew. Uh, Again, when I wrote it, I was kind of writing a blanket. I felt a really, not vanilla, but kind of just, it could really be anywhere, any point in history. You just put yourself there thinking of like, this is happening around me. What am I seeing? How did it get to this point? And the horror of like, there's no going back. So whatever that guy, whatever his baggage he brought, it had nothing to do with me. It was all just, projection. So I say success is the best revenge. Nothing like having the book come out, and it's not like a gloating thing. It's kind of like, I hope that he watches this. I hope that he asks questions. I hope that he just knows, like, this is what I thought when I wrote it. You're welcome to do with it, now that it's out in the world, make it your own. But you can't always. So thank you for letting me read that, guys. I know that was kind of a hot tamale of a poem. Um, I'd like to kind of close out with a couple more here from Backseat Emperor. One thing that's really important to me, as I've done a lot of things online and I've had some luck with movies and things like that. It's always a little bit weird when somebody recognizes you. And we talked earlier about the post I made about the gentleman, at the laundromat, and you just kind of have to talk your way out of it. So anonymity, one thing I really love as a hobby of mine is to go to like a big national park and just disappear. Just go on a hike, turn my phone off, bring a bottle of water, a backpack of snacks or whatever, and just get away. But in this age where we've got tracking devices, we've got phones, we've got people that are always trying to get a hold of us, family members, friends, we've all got schedules, we've all got jobs, we've all got those things. It's really hard. So I wanted to write a poem about that. And that's what this is. This poem is called Who Am Us? Anonymity. As a word, it's not that impressive. As a lifestyle, it's shunned by social media influencers and coveted by almost everyone else. There are times when I feel like everyone knows me, wants a piece of me, won't be satisfied if I don't give a song and dance no matter how asinine or half-baked it may be. I do less and less acting these days. I don't miss hours of rehearsal or fighting the elements in order to deliver the perfect shot for the perfect scene, perfectly performed perfectly. I miss wearing masks to hide behind. I miss that stoic shield of character and costume to protect me from inconsistencies and disappointment of relying on other people in life. Masks. As a word, it's mysterious, enchanting. As a crutch, they are shunned by reporters, investigators, and the curious, and desired by the broken and the damned. There are times when I wish I could throw away every dictionary and thesaurus. I want to live in a world without definitions. I will gladly give you a song and dance if you'll only let me cast aside my masks anonymously. And I think everybody can kind of relate to that. Maybe you have a ex-girlfriend, boyfriend or whatever that won't leave you alone, or even though you love your family, sometimes you're just like, oh God, just 5 minutes, just can I just do the thing and just get back to you. So that's, we can all relate to that where it's like sometimes you just want to shut yourself in a room and just take a deep breath, have some coffee, whatever your drink of choice is, and just be yourself. Um, I like to close with this one. And one of the things I kind of like to do, um, I kind of let people in a little bit. I know that poem was about anonymity, but relationships are really important in our life, and it could be, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids. So this one is actually about my daughter. It was written a few years ago, and She might she might not like it that I say this, but when she got to be a little bit older, kind of like around middle school, it was really tough to kind of pull stuff out of her about, well, what's going on in school? Are you gonna go to the dance? Or, are you gonna do this? Dad, but one thing, and not always, that I kind of got in my head that I realized, okay, well, this kind of works, is on weekends I would make her breakfast and I would make waffles. She loved waffles. And so I called them distraction waffles because as she's eating the waffles and I'm asking the questions, suddenly the wall comes down and she's telling me a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And like, oh, and then this, and then my teacher said, and then this girl said, and then this, and like, I don't like this boy because he's weird and he picks his nose in class. But then this guy, I'm like, okay, okay, okay. So that's where this poem comes from. This is called Distraction Waffles. What was it that you wanted to tell me? Your mouth was a grimace barricade holding back a barrage of questions now dissipated. Perhaps you do not yet have the vernacular. Perhaps you are still contemplating. Perhaps you are still half asleep. There is still time, little one, for there are waffles to be had. I had many profound things I wanted to discuss with you, such as The Egg by Andy Weir. Things I didn't think you were old enough for, like ordering a new training bras on Amazon. Oh, things that maybe I don't know if I have the cool daddy confidence that I project, like how to know if people are lying when they're smiling. But the waffles refuse to eat themselves, much like my feelings. I wonder how many more silly weekend father-daughter breakfasts we still have to share before the boys start turning your head, before your friends steal you away to the malls and cafes and eventually to the bars, before I disappear into myself again and communicate with paper more than you. So eat your pile of waffles, my dear. Eat them as heartily as your 11-year-old self gulps down life, marveling at it all. Eat and drink and laugh and bask in the glow of childhood's flickering flame. Know that I love you and that the waffles were just the morning icebreaker for our conversations and that you were never, ever a distraction to me.